Hey there, fellow readers. Today I am doing a review on the light novel Is It Wrong to Try to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon Volume 2 by Fujino Omori. Now, this series, if you aren't familiar with it, check out video 1 that I did. I'll put a link somewhere in here. You can check it out. Generally, it's a fantasy type light novel series, but it's a lot of fun. It has a lot to do with harems. Now, in this particular one, our main character, Belle, who is trying to become a great hero, he finds himself with a new companion who is a young girl named Lily, who is a supporter. And supporters, it's kind of an interesting role. Essentially, they are the people that tag along with heroes and do things like carry the hero's loot and essentially support the hero. And it's a very interesting thing in this book. Like, for a relatively fun and light-hearted novel series, it actually approaches the whole idea of sort of social classism and the idea that because supporters aren't directly heroes, a lot of them are really mistreated and looked down upon. And it's, again, like, kind of a funny thing because Bell himself acknowledges that without a supporter, you really can't go to superior heights because you're constantly limited by what you can carry, and your own mobility suffers because of the stuff you're carrying and so forth. So you can only go into the dungeon so far without having some kind of support. So it was interesting to see how Bell views supporters in contrast with a lot of the rest of the society that he's trying very desperately to fit into and to join. Also in this novel is sort of a subplot about a thief who's going around and stealing items from various adventurers, and another plot line about a particular familia that has a wine that supposedly causes you to fall in love with someone if you drink it. Now, these can seem like sort of three very separate storylines, but they come together really, really well in this book. And again, I love this series. Like, this is such a really fun series to read. I just burn through these books. They're a very easy read, and the characters are really enjoyable. Now, there is sort of a harem-ish type thing starting to build around Belle, but for once, he's not a completely clueless character. He actually does have a lot of qualities that you can look at and say, hey, you know, I can see where someone would find him appealing. This sort of drive and decency and honesty. And he's very accomplished. Like, he really is pushing himself to be great. He's not just resting on his laurels or coasting along with somebody else carrying him. He wants to be his own person. And what's funny is that, you know, typically in a light novel or anime, women, particularly in harems, I find, and it's not always, but sometimes I find that they can be treated very much as secondary type characters, not really fleshed out. The hero is obviously oblivious half the time to their advances. And in this particular one, it's kind of interesting because half the reason that Bell himself is trying to become great is because he idolizes this one adventurer who happens to be a woman. And it's kind of interesting to see a story where the male, who is the sort of ideal of this harem of beautiful women, is himself actually entranced by a particular woman so much that he wants to be worthy of her and push himself to become a better person so that he can stand alongside her. So it's a slightly different take on the whole harem thing. I really enjoy it. Like I said, it's a lot of fun. Again, this one sort of, it's cool. The author accomplishes a pretty fine walk along because he switches from third person when he's dealing with all the other characters as sort of focal point, and then when he switches to Belle, he writes it in first person. So you kind of flip-flop here and there between first person and third person, which sometimes really doesn't work. It comes off kind of gimmicky, but in this particular book, it actually works really well, and I think part of that is just because Belle has such a clear voice and is actually fun to read as a character. And because the mix is pretty even between the third person and first person, it doesn't feel like he's just throwing in the odd one just to say, hey, look, I did it. It actually feels that it serves a real purpose in the story and in building the world. So Is It Wrong to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon, Volume 2? It is a really good follow-up, I thought, to Volume 1. I really enjoyed it. I very much enjoyed the new character of Lily. I'm really looking forward. I think we will see more of her in Volume 3. And again, I highly recommend it. So thank you very much for watching this review. If you want to check out some of my other light novel reviews, feel free to do so. You can click on that subscribe button and you can watch all of my future light novel and other novel reviews. Thank you again for watching the video. I hope to see you in my next one. Until then, bye-bye for now.